amazing. I've never had so much sort of research done about me. Wow, that's great, thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and to be on the stage, not introducing someone, but actually reading for you. It's lovely. Thank you so much, you guys, for asking me. Yeah, I'm going to read from Food for the Dead, which I feel it's quite a complicated idea to try and translate in one sentence, I thought, and then I performed last weekend with Caroline Bird, who swiftly put it as memory in present tense, and I thought, brilliant, you figured that one out. And yeah, so it uses different historical backdrops throughout Ukraine's kind of history, but also present day, to tell my family stories. And it can be an unsettling read, and I always feel a bit cautious sharing those sort of things in public. So I thought today perhaps I could just read from the first section, which is called Grandmothers, and it just encompasses these sort of stories of women in my family. And I'll start with Generational Hazard, which is based on this family photograph. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's a family tree. So my grandfather took it in the 70s, and it is different women of my family climbing up an oak. Generational Hazard. The women of my family are sepia and crackling. They are climbing an oak with babes in one arm, grasping branches with the other, recreating the family tree, making the pun of themselves physical. Their laughter rough like bark, and hair not yet in its autumn, falling like leaves I am born to sweep. From the Donetsk canopy, all they can see is goats grazing, husbands turning fish over fire. They cannot see the far future in which I exist, or the possible future in which one of them falls, the snap of her radius like a stepped-on twig, or the future winters in which my elbow aches from the cold, and I blame that ache on her fall. So I feel that Food for the Dead, although it takes from different moments in Ukrainian history, it looks at the Chernobyl reactor explosion, it looks at different moments of sort of World War II. It mostly returns again and again to the Holodomor, which was an enforced famine between 1932 and 1933, resulting in what's estimated to be 3.9 million Ukrainian deaths. My family lived through that, and it's a legacy that I feel continued. My great-grandmother became a baker, and this tradition is really carried on. So this poem makes reference to that, and it also uses the word babusia, which may appear from time to time. It just means grandmother. Theory of transference. When the car flipped over, it was a minor miracle that she did not die. Instead, Babusia Valia crawled from the front, dragging behind her a fish from market, determined to salvage dinner. That the famine never left her, even when close to God, was the real disaster. That there are microplastics in my womb, the legacy of atomic bomb testing in my mother's teeth is another, while in Valia's bones, Holodomor lives on. The way her knee joints shuffled against snow, the click of her hip as she stood up, the way she ground her jaw as the kind officer inspected the smashed jeep was motivated by the promise of another meal. Buried years later in a plot in Donetsk, the ground moans from the ache of her remains. It has never felt such hunger. God is watching. Babusia Ina presses her manicured nails into the swollen bites on my legs, leaving the sign of the cross, a small exorcism. Later she scores dough with a blade, that same cross. Large dumplings fall into oil sizzling like Yalta summers. She serves me God on a plate. His presence is terrifying. I hear him in cricket legs grating against the night like hacksaws, see him in the heat rising from the Black Sea. Wrapped in sweaty linen, I struggle against a dream in which I am locked inside my room with only one door and a peephole. A large, unblinking eye watches. This next poem is about my grandma's strength, and also, by strength I mean very much a physical strength, but also of spirit. And so the last time I visited Ukraine was in January 2022, and I became unwell and had to go to hospital, but because of the COVID restrictions in Ukraine at the time, which were much stronger than here, we weren't allowed to go into the hospital. Everyone had to wait outside, but it's Ukraine, it's January, it's really snowing. Babosia's arms. Remember the winter I fumbled my thumb under the knife, spurted a mistake, red and obvious. I am nothing like her. Babosia Inas expertly chops potatoes for borscht, her muscles defined like a cheap car, years of baby bearing, body burying. She's carried so much. Remember outside the hospital, how she held a plastic chair high above her head, threatened to break the glass doors after we were made to wait an hour in the snow. I had never seen a wound frozen, wondered which animal would lick at it if we were left any longer. And then the nurses rushed us in. Babosia let the chair fall with a bone snap crunch. A deer scattered away in the distance. My love of poetry comes from my Babosia Ina, who she went through teacher training to become. She loved poetry. She wanted to teach poetry to children, and then the first day of teaching, she realizes she hates children. She just likes poetry. So she goes on to become a police officer. But I still grew up with someone really guiding me through poems. Peonies on the ground. The chalkboard stands clean as a knife behind my Babosia Ina, before she has become my Babosia Ina. She waits for small suits and pinafores to march in, carrying flowers as an offering of either gratitude or apology. These bunches of pink and white fists will soon come undone, as will her temper, as will theirs. Years on, we practice her English. I teach her the word for my favourite flower, which we repeat with care. Peony, she pronounces with an O like a cat's yawn, tired of my lessons. Or oh, memory of days she does not want to relive. Oh, a crystal ball showing only the past. Oh, I wish language were easier than this. She's such an interesting character. I don't often read these ones in succession, and it's really, I felt like she's kind of here with me in a way. It's really nice. This next one uses two Ukrainian words, Lyubov and Zabota, which means love and care. Babosia's heart was cold. The doctor looks up from his screen with pity in his eyes, confirms what I had already suspected. He recommends drying orange peel on radiators, as though morsels of the Mediterranean might invoke warmth in Babosia's heart, emphasizes the importance of words like Lyubov, Zabota. I watch Babosia flinch at the sounds, shudder like an engine in winter. The old rattle of ice cubes in her chest reminds me of when she coughed one up, told me it was time for me to become a woman, pressed my head down on the floor, placed the ice cube beneath my ear, coughed up a two-pronged fork, then pierced it through the lobe. Blood fountained from me as though my child body had become a woman body, had become a city centre monument. Babosia smiled like I was a prize, though I still don't know what she won. That's a true story. She really wanted me to have my ears pierced. And I'm actually wearing her earrings right now, which I just thought about. Really strange. She is really with me. I'll do a couple more. Is that okay? Are we doing okay? Orange peel. When the cancer took over the motions of her body, Babusiaina peeled oranges and ate only the skin, sucking rind from under her nails with iron precision. We were told to ignore this, to catapult our bodies into the pool, think of other strangeness. Chlorine as an organism that stains our hair, or the way the English capitalize their eyes, not like money but ego. Babusia could never think of herself in that way. Babusia would never think of herself handing orange slices to her grandchildren, keeping the skins for herself, worrying only about their wet hair, never the glow of stomach lining, its vitamin tan. I'll read two more. I'll read the title poem, Food for the Dead, which is for Irina, my great-grandmother, who was a really eccentric character. And I was going through a lot of family photographs as I was writing this book. And you've got all these very sort of strong Ukrainian men looking very serious. And in every photo of her, she's playing dress up, and I really don't understand how this came to be. She would make these costumes. She, she's a fortune teller in one, or in another she's sort of like fainting, and I'm like, what are you up to? It was a really serious time in history, but it reminds me that yes, there was some horrible things happening, and also a lot of joy. Food for the dead. After a birthday, I wake like a candle being blown out. First thought dawning whoosh. Babusia Irina never tried hundreds and thousands, never experienced the party of sugar melting on her dead tongue. She wouldn't have understood their name. Hundreds, thousands, I count maybe 62. Even in death, she carries a logic hot to the touch like a pan from the stove. But I think she would have loved them. These hundreds and thousands I pour on the black earth of her grave like confetti, because she loved a celebration, invented one daily. Today we celebrate the goat giving birth, tomorrow the flax that will bloom. Excuses made to sip black market champagne beneath the table, children at her ankles clapping. And I'll end on this one. It's called Life with No Escape. And I wrote an article recently for the poetry school on how I've written it, and it's written in couplets, and I like to think of couplets as sort of two lines that hold hands in thought, they're kind of together. And so this is for my other great-grandmother, Valia, and a lot of my childhood memories of her, because we couldn't really speak to each other. My sort of grasp on Ukrainian was very poor, and she was quite unwell, so most of my memories are just holding hands, and that's how we talk to each other. Life with no escape. She would open the front door and forget where she was going. To feed the chickens perhaps, but there were no chickens. To dig up potatoes, but the ground lay bare. The motorway would buzz nearby, the sky would stand blue, unfamiliar, as would the mirror, as would the grandchildren dressed in denim, tugging her sleeves, asking her to come inside. There would be no cosmic reasoning for it. First, she would forget their names. Then she would forget hers. Like a star dead in the sky, they could see her, but she would no longer be there. Thanks so much for having me.